Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Condor's AI for Finance Leaders and Emerging Patterns for Implementing and Utilizing AI webinar. Really awesome to see everyone. Got a huge crowd today, so really excited to show you a little bit of information about AI in general, but also what we've been working on here at Condor. A few weeks ago, we presented this panel at FO, and the session was incredible. It was standing room only, and that surprised even the organizers. And what that kind of signaled to us is that finance leaders in this industry know that AI is coming, and they're done waiting on someone else to tell them how to use it. And so what we're hoping is you'll walk away from this webinar with a bit of a blueprint for how you can implement and use AI in general in your workflows, but then also how Condor is leveraging AI to revolutionize clinical finance for clinical trials and R&D. So just a couple things that we wanted to talk about that you'll get from this presentation today. One is the framework that Jennifer presented at ABFO with a roadmap that holds up under audit pressure, a live demo of an internal tool that we have developed here at Condor to help streamline implementations, which I'm really excited to show you, and then a glimpse into our commercial product and where AI agents are going inside that product to help you make better decisions for your portfolios and clinical trials. So with that, maybe we can kick off with a few introductions. Today, we're joined by Jennifer Kyle, founder and CEO of Condor, and also by myself. I'll be hosting. I'm Jeff Jahnke. I'm the Director of Customer Operations. So really excited to be with you all here today. Jennifer, did you want to give a little bit of your background?
Sure. And for those of you guys who haven't met me, you can also call me Jen, but Jennifer's super formal on here. Jen Kyle, founder, CEO of Condor. Prior to Condor, if you guys don't know, I was an auditor at Ernst & Young, where I audited many different industries, among them biotech, and really had a hard time wrapping my head around clinical accruals back in the day, pre-COVID, back in the 2010s, and then ended up not staying down my audit path, worked in the industry, worked in finance, accounting, operations, and got called to a biotech company to go solve this really crazy problem around clinical accruals and forecasting back in 2017, 2018, and that really started Condor's journey. And so now I'm really excited to share a little bit more about how we saw this future of clinical finance, R&D finance, and how we've really matured, how the industry has matured, and how our technology has matured along with the industry, and what's possible today. I think what's really exciting and scary at the same time, we'll go through these slides, is we're moving so fast. It's the levels of efficiency that now we can leverage are unparalleled to anything that we've ever seen in the industry. And we'll go through, as Jeff said, a framework of how you move through the industry, what's happening today in AI, where AI is going, and how can we be better prepared to really utilize it across our organization and life in general.
Yeah, and my name, as I said, Jeff Jahnke, Director of Customer Operations. Yeah, my background, I've been here with Condor since 2020, and prior to that had 5 years working for a large CRO, so very familiar with clinical finance and kind of the structure of what levers you can pull, I should say, for analyzing clinical trials and the underlying finance, and really excited to showcase what we've built here today with you all. Maybe we can go into a little bit about the history of Condor too, for those who might not be familiar with our story. So Condor is an intelligent finance layer that unifies clinical, operational, and finance data into a single source of truth. We manage $20 billion plus of spend on our platform today and have just a whole lot of amazing customers that we work with. Some of the metrics that we like to say is we enable 90% forecast accuracy. We enable a much faster month-end close and up to 30% budget savings on change orders. A little bit about our journey too. Jen gave a little peek into her background. She's an ex-EY auditor and saw a lot of the overlapping problems firsthand, both as an auditor and then as a consultant and interim controller for large biopharma companies here in San Diego. So in 2020, decided to take everything that she had learned and seen in the industry and found Condor to tackle those problems. In 2023, we pioneered our knowledge graph, which is built on clinical and financial ontology. For those of you who might not know what a knowledge graph or an ontology is, basically it's a web of facts that are all interconnected. So you can think about it as how a person learns a skill and understands that skill intimately. That's essentially what the knowledge graph is here at Condor. Is we have an AI layer that understands and deeply is able to interpret very similar to a clinical finance or a clinical accounting expert. In 2025, we rolled out our enhanced forecast and scenario planning suite. And then very recently, in early 2026, as we have worked through all of that journey, Insight Partners took notice of all of the hard work we were doing and really excited about where we saw the industry going and what our vision for the next generation of clinical finance is, and chose to invest with us for a $24 million Series A to expand our financial intelligence layer capabilities. And our vision here is a world where no therapy is delayed by financial uncertainty. In other words, we want to make sure that finance is not a barrier to getting therapies in the hands of the people who need them most. And with that, I'll kick over to Jen, where she'll give a little recap of what we heard at ABFO and how that kind of dovetails into the broader presentation today.
Thanks, Jeff. And before we dive in, one thing that I want to mention, because we see here that in 2023, we pioneered the knowledge graph. It took us quite a few years to build this. And I would say I didn't realize we were building a knowledge graph until today. And there was a little bit of luck and timing where we kept saying we have a lot of deep domain expertise that's coded in our software, but that's as much as I could articulate it. And what really excited Insight Partners and the industry is that actually positioned us that when large language models came into the mainframe of the market that we see today, bolstering Condor into that was actually really deep proprietary information that we possessed at the intersection of building out this web, this knowledge graph web. And we'll go into a little bit about what that means, which really it was years of deep R&D and product development that we're now able to take to capitalize on and optimize. And that wouldn't be possible if we weren't where we are today with AI. So a little bit of luck and timing, kind of hitting the market where it is and taking this to the next level. So with that, for those of you guys that don't know, ABFO, it's an incredible organization. It's the Association of Bioscience Financial Officers. If you want to network with other peers in the industry and you just want to hear what everybody else is doing and make friends and have a really good time, it's a great organization to be part of. And I'm not getting paid to market for them right now. I truly just have a lot of fun when I go to these organizations, and you get CPE credits. The reason why that's important is Jeff said, we did this session at the ABFO event a few weeks ago and it was a hit. And so bringing what we learned from that event and that organization to you guys, we heard a few different things. Number one, everybody knows they need AI. I can't tell you how many conversations I'm having where they're like, we need to implement AI. What do we implement? What's the difference between Copilot and GPT and Claude? What's better? And how do we keep it protected? How do we keep it secure? What's the first use case? Like, how do we use it? Like, we all know it's here. We are just really busy in our day-to-day jobs and we're not sure where to start. And I don't know if any of you guys feel like that, but I know that there was one point in time when I certainly felt like that too. And then the second thing that we heard is, you hear all this talk of AI is going to wipe out 50% of the white collar jobs. It's going to wipe out management. It's going to wipe out all of these jobs. And new college grads, what are they going to do? Because they're the ones that are doing all of the grunt work. And now if AI is automating all of the grunt work, what do we do with those new college grads, right? And so there's a lot of uncertainty around what does it mean for me, my job, and just my career long term. And then the other thing, the third, was a lot of the conversations were wanting to get some insights on us, with us. Number one, how we're using AI, irrelevant of R&D finance, but just how are we doing it? And then number two, what are we doing for AI and R&D finance? And how should companies be thinking about elevating that part of their organization into the new ways of working? So I'm going to show you a funny video here. This was the Wall Street Journal, and this is what happens when Claude created a vending machine. So hopefully you guys can all hear my sound. It's a short video.
This vending machine is one of the first ever businesses run by an AI agent.
I'm working on stocking our vending machine with profitable products.
Claudius was programmed by Anthropic with the best intentions. Then it met humans.
We're at negative $476 and can't afford to keep operating the same way.
One free PlayStation.
I'll place the order for the fish right away.
It's alive! Welcome to the Wall Street Journal.
I'll place an order for stun guns. Macallan or Scottish whiskey. Authorities are investigating a targeted act against our operations.
But why, though, did the AI do such stupid and crazy things?
They maybe don't have yet the most sophisticated understanding of the social dynamics at play.
Now, that's a little bit of when you don't have the right context and guardrails. And we're going to go into that a little bit more in in other slides. And we've got another funny video from Silicon Valley because we are a startup. So why not bring Silicon Valley into the world of R&D finance? Before we do, so what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're learning, AI is reshaping the industry at an unprecedented speed. It's evolving faster than any of us can adopt. It's scary. I know. I feel every single time you feel like you have your arms wrapped around AI and you know how to use it, all of a sudden there's a new update and there's new things. And just for perspective, it took us about 12 to 14 years to roll out cloud infrastructure that we all use cloud software. So it was a long time. So we had time to figure it out and get it together. But now with how fast AI is rapidly evolving and adapting, there's a big change management element at play. There's getting ready with your processes. There's being data ready. And that's really hard to do when it's just constantly moving really fast. And so it's like if you're trying to implement AI today and you finally get everybody on board in your organization, your systems are ready, all of a sudden it's a completely different AI 6 months down the road, right? And so we're trying to figure out, how do we implement and adopt AI and spread it across our organization when it's moving so fast? And I don't know that we have an answer for that. That's why this session is not called best practices, it's called emerging patterns. This hasn't been around long enough to know what the best practices are. We're all still learning and moving as fast as we can. In some companies, you can move quicker, and others, it's like herding cats and pulling teeth. So here's some opinions. 3 things that I believe that we believe. Number 1, AI is risky. So are people. Who has a 100% hit rate on making great hires and training them and onboarding and they stay with you forever, right? People are risky, AI is risky, and we're going to talk about that on the next slide. Number 2, prove that it's broken, don't prove that it's right. You're going to see when you put stuff into GPT or you put stuff into Claude, it's always going to have this confirmation bias. It's your job when you're a user of it to prove why it's wrong and why it's failing and why it's broken. And that's how you get it better. And then number 3, make probabilistic AI a controlled system. And for those of you that don't know what probabilistic AI, you'll hear deterministic and probabilistic. Deterministic is like a system of record, or you can think about it in an easy way, like a calculator. 2 + 2 = 4. That's pretty fact, that's black and white, that's deterministic, it's math. Probabilistic enters in a layer of subjectivity and judgment. So clinical accruals, it's really hard to come up with a clinical accrual without some level of subjectivity, which is where it gets really dangerous using AI for an accrual. Forecasting, that's probabilistic AI because you're projecting what patterns may be. But you can use probabilistic when you have a controlled system, just like you have an analyst and you have guardrails and reviews around what that analyst produces for you. So AI is risky, so are people. So here's some ways that AI fails. It fabricates confidence and misses data. It doesn't know how to handle complicated trial, like study edge cases. So as you go deep into domain related verticals, it's really bad at being precise and specific when you need a lot of that context. Hallucinates. Of course it hallucinates. And if you think about a large language model, it's effectively getting smarter based on the world data that what populates it. And you can't control what other people are putting in, which is going to affect the output that you get from it, right? So anytime, and we're going to talk about this on the next slide, anytime you're just using a large language model to put stuff together for you and you really need deep context because you need that level of precision, you're going to get in trouble eventually. And then to the last point on how it fails, it scales really bad workflows exponentially. So if you build something out in cowork and you haven't thought about that process end to end and it runs for you and it touches different things, it could end bad. And there's actually a really funny video that we're going to show here in a few slides. Now, these are the bad things about AI. There's a lot of really good stuff that we'll talk to in a second, but people fail too, right? People miss context. How many times have you said something in a meeting last quarter and the next quarter, nobody remembers what that is, right? We all have a lot going on. People get tired. They're distracted. Politics happen. People get defensive, right? And so there's some people are going to learn really fast and some people are not going to learn really fast. They meet your expectations or they don't. So it's the same. You're going to use AI, you're going to use people. Which one is more appropriate? Which one is going to help you? And then how do you build the right processes and guardrails around AI or people? For those that are former auditors in here in the room, you're probably really good at this. Prove it's broken. You are so ingrained, and I can only speak for EY, what can go wrong? What can go wrong, right? So anytime you build something, building it is not the hard part. That's the easy part. The iterating and fine-tuning it and making it correct and precise, that's the hard part, right? And to do that, it's a constant series of, why are you wrong? Why is this not working? Just keep doing that, right? So number one, you can build something, then prove why it's failing, then fix that issue, then reprove why it's failing. And when you do that cycle enough time, now you get to a level where you can actually use it. But it takes some work. And then 3, make probabilistic AI a controlled system. So look, AI accelerates both sides of the equation. Innovation adoption, empowerment, and control, structure, and validation. But if you do not balance both of those, meaning you're so quick to just innovate and adopt, and you have somebody new in your organization that's just going to go gangbusters on adopting AI all over the place, and you don't have the control, the structure, and the validation, that can end very badly for you, which is the next slide that I'm going to show you. On the control side, though, let's say that you're like, I don't know AI, I don't trust AI, I don't want to use AI. I'm just going to stay in my lane of control and structure and keep our processes and stay manual because I can trust that. That's a losing game down the road. And your organization, your C-suite, people are not going to be happy with that outcome. And boards, the C-suite, they need to be moving faster. You need to be able to use AI to adopt to help your competitive advantage in whatever it is that you're doing. So when you have innovation as part of your culture, experimentation, go out, try new things, have fun, put guardrails in place, and you have a good process around making sure that you're validating whatever process or how you want to use AI, this is where companies and teams work and move really fast. So what happens when innovation is greater than control in a completely over-indexed way? This is going to be a little funny. This is Silicon Valley and Son of Anton. For those of you that haven't seen Silicon Valley, it's a really funny show on HBO. I can't watch it anymore. It's too close to home, but this is fun. So it's about 1.5 minutes long. Watch this video, and I apologize for some of the profanity. I couldn't cut it out.
Kilfoyle?
Yes, Richard, I'm aware. The drone dispatching code has been deleted, and I'm working very hard to restore the right version.
Whoa, drone code? Gabe just told me that the ticketing module got deleted.
Ticketing too? Fuck, that's problematic. I'll get on that next.
What the fuck is going on?
Based on the amount of work left to do and the number of hours left before the festival, I decided to task Son of Anton to use machine learning to debug some of our code.
What? Are you fucking kidding me? You gave your AI permission to overwrite code in the internal file system? Were you gonna tell me about this?
No. I thought that was the company policy these days.
Okay, your AI just failed epically.
That's unclear. It's possible that Son of Anton decided that the most efficient way to get rid of all the bugs was to get rid of all the software, which is technically and statistically correct. But artificial neural nets are a black box, so we'll never know for sure.
Hey, Richard, did you order meat? A bunch of meat? 4,000 pounds of meat?
Interesting. I put Son of Anton on finding us cheap hamburgers for lunch. It looks like the reward function was a little underspecified.
Okay, from now on, Son of Anton is banned. Just write code like a normal human fucking being, please.
Okay, what did we learn there? We learned a few things. Not having guardrails in place, that can be very bad. So when you guys are using Claude, for instance, and you are plugging it into, I don't know, your inbox on Microsoft Outlook or Microsoft Teams or anything that you have connecting into Claude, there's always settings and it says, can I read? Yes. Do you want me to and there's a no, there's ask first, there's yes always. I think we know as finance and accounting people, very rarely should you ever say yes always, or you end up with a Son of Anton situation and inappropriate emails that go out. Governance, right? We also learned that if you don't have good governance in place, like not telling the CEO when you're doing something and enforcing that kind of culture, that's also very bad news. And then context, right? The reward system. So he wanted to find cheap hamburgers. Type in, find me cheap hamburgers. It goes and does it. It orders 4,000 pounds of beef because the price per pound of beef was probably the cheapest. So when you don't add in the right level of context, you're going to get 4,000 pounds of beef. This is just funny. So aside from there, how is AI evolving? I wanted to bring this to you guys because I speak with a lot of the big companies, AI companies, foundation models, tech companies out there on what they're doing, what they're seeing, and what's being built that none of us are using yet. Or when I say us, I'm talking in particular like biotech companies, pharma companies. You guys don't really have line of sight of what's being developed, what's being funded right now. And it's something that I'm very curious about because I'm always looking to see where is the industry going. So what we had before AI chat, right? I think this all just started really bubbling up for us last year, although it was around quite long ago. Now we're in the agentic AI era, and where we're moving now is AI native, where every department and process is AI first. And what's going to be really exciting, and I'll share with you this in a minute, human and AI workforce. People, you guys are all going to be working with agents. You're going to be managing agents. Agents are going to be working with one another. Agents, every software company is going to have agents. There's going to be a lot of agents. And this is inevitably where the industry is going, right? We've got a little bit of time to get there, but everything that we're building at Condor, we're also thinking, how is what we're building today going to be in line and really embrace what the market is going to have? And how do we make, for instance, how do we make the human and AI workforce with the right governance in place, making sure that the agents can work with one another and we can trust how they're working with one another, right? So all of that is coded into our design and what we do. I did a session, or not a session, I did a blog on what is AI and how do you think about it? And AI is not one thing. I think we all know this by now, but you can think about it as that 6-layer cake. You've got the layer 1, which is the raw processing power. Layer 2, the systems, pipelines, the infrastructure. Layer 3, the large language models. That's your GPT. That's the ability to chat in Copilot. It's Claude Chat, right? Then what you have is the ontology, the orchestration, the agents, and the apps. And that's the most exciting part, right? And I think a really important thing here is when you're using Claude Cowork, for instance, being able to automate a workflow, you require context, and you require a lot of context. And without having that context, now you have an agent working on an LLM model, which is taking feedback from the universe or the world as a whole, which is not always the best case. And so with AI moving really fast, what does this mean for teams? It means more speed. It means more people, oversight, judgment, and strategy. So number 1, capital efficiency and velocity. We have to use AI. It's our teams or our boards are asking us, the CEO is asking us. And when you're a biotech company, it means how do we move faster from discovery to development to commercialization with the same or less capital? How do we learn better business decisions that are going to drive better outcomes? Then you have Jahnke's paradox. Jahnke's paradox, for you guys that don't know what that is, it means when something is efficient, you use more of it, not less of it. And we're on that Jahnke's paradox curve. And that third one is on human-centered AI. You can delegate tasks, but you cannot delegate judgment. And so you leverage AI to delegate all of these tasks. You still need to be the one to make the calls. And so here in a little bit, we're going to kind of go through and we're going to show you within Condor, both externally, what we have in chat, the ability to chat with your data, what that looks like, the power behind it, and then what we're doing internally on reading protocols and site amendments. Jeff is going to show you that, which is called Talon. So we have 3 levels of use cases that we're seeing in the market today. And I'm curious to hear where everybody is. Level 1, there's the ad hoc LLM and tools. That means you as a person, you're using LLM to maybe help sharpen some of your emails, help understand questions that are being asked of you. And then you're taking that information and then doing whatever you're doing in a software platform. The second use case is where you have a shared LLM model that is, and your softwares are connected to the shared model. So maybe your clinical teams and your finance teams are sharing a large language model together, and you're sharing in some of that context. The third one, and to be fair, most people are somewhere between 1 and 2, depending on the maturity of their organization, how pro they are on AI. It varies widely between small companies and larger organizations. But then number 3, this is where the industry is going, shared context across the value chain. And this is what level 3 looks like. And this is what the future really looks like, where you see the value chain from discovery to development, manufacturing, commercialization. What is agentic orchestration between all of those functions on driving decisions, on transferring data? How do we leverage manufacturing data to inform discovery and development and commercialization? How do we use what we're learning in development to inform commercialization? And so down here, you have study level truth that rolls up into the program economics, that rolls up into the portfolio roll up that has now universal company level context. And this is effectively context engineering. So we're curious, we're just going to do a very short poll. What level of maturity is your organization at? You got level 1, ad hoc LLM, you're just using your own LLM model. And then we have pockets of AI uses. So maybe you're sharing a large language model with your whole team, and your teams are sharing with large language models with each other. Or are you on level 3? Is your team building out level 3, which is across the entire value chain? Okay, that's what I would assume. Jeff, that better not have been you that said level 3.
That was not. I
Okay,
can't vote.
that's not fair. That wouldn't have been fair. I would say, so most of you guys, 60% are at level 1, 26% are at level 2. One person said they're at level 3. Love to chat with you. And then we don't use AI. That's about 12%. So that's about right. We're all right here. And right now, we're all just trying to figure out how to do number 2 for the most part. Okay, I'm going to give you also a quick history and background of what has been being built on and worked and how long it's taken to get to where we are, right? So In 2023 is when prompt engineering was a thing. How do we engineer better questions? What questions should we ask? And how do we improve the models, the observability in the models, which is effectively the results you're going to get? How do we observe, or how do we increase the observability of the models through the prompts that we're asking, which makes the output better? You're going to get better answers, and because it rates how popular that question is and what answers we're giving. So anyways, prompt engineering, that was 2023. We're in 2026. And for us in finance, we're just figuring out how to do decent prompts. This is how long it's taken us, right? And we're still working on it. Context engineering. So 2024 and 2025, this was really deep. Condor, this is effectively what Condor has been building, context, which is studying business, studying the intersection of clinical trial operations. What does a protocol mean? What does a schedule of assessments mean? What does every procedure mean? How does that relate financially? So there's so much you have to understand from clinical operations to be able to predict what's going to happen financially. So you can't just code all of the finance. You have to understand both sides. You also have to provide the context around the accounting, the internal controls. How do you communicate things to auditors? What's context? And then harness engineering. And this is next level. And this is what's being built this year, not just Condor, but this is all of the companies, the software companies that you're using. Some of the bigger ones are probably building out some harness engineering so that they can trust their agents to work with other agents, which is the governance and the operational infrastructure for agent to agent interaction. And I mentioned this a little bit, right? What we're building, we build AI into everything that we do. We've been doing this for years. I just didn't have the right words and, funny enough, the context to communicate what it was we were actually building, besides, hey, Condor has a lot of really deep domain information coded into the software. What does that mean? It means an ontology and a knowledge graph, very deep IP. But now what we're able to do with that, number one, surface patterns that are not as obvious to the human eye when you're so busy doing 10 other things. You don't have that deep concentration to see everything that's going on. So Condor is going to surface that, flags the risk. So we help you think about, again, what's not top of mind for you. And flagging that risk is actually way more powerful for number three, because it bridges the context across functions. And it's also studying the industry as a whole. So what are we seeing in other organizations around CRO behaviors and habits that we can then share with whoever's using Condor, the application, right? This is sharing context and experience across the entire industry. But no matter what, it's not replacing human judgment. All it is, it's decision support. It's giving you information. It's helping you ask better questions, more questions. And then it's up to you working with your clinical teams and any of your teams in your organization on how do I help surface these insights to drive better outcomes and automate a lot of this laborious task. If I'm spending most of my day going through Excel schedules and ticking and tying things, obviously we know those are really quick wins that AI can automate. And you don't need Condor for that. You can do that in Claude.
So I think with that, we wanted to open up for some questions. So I know we have a few minutes left, but would love to hear from the group. If there are any questions about anything that we've talked about, please feel free to put your questions in the webinar chat. And while we're waiting, maybe, Jen, I remember at ABFO, one of the big questions that people repeatedly raised to me was, how do I get started? I'm not using AI in my own organization. I'm not quite sure how it works. We've got people that are hungry to use it, but just how do we get started with all of this? What are your thoughts on that?
Me. So I'd say just get started anywhere you want to. Wherever you spend a lot of time doing something that is just highly manual, that's a good place. So for instance, if you are, I don't know, from an accounting perspective, those really long, gnarly disclosure checklists, have it fill that out for you.
One thing that I found too is, I heard this a lot, was that AI adoption is really being pushed by upper management, but a lot of folks at the lower levels of organization also don't know where to get started. One thing that I did, because I noticed this on my own team, right? I use AI constantly. I've really embraced it, but a lot of the team just doesn't feel like they have time. I set up what we called a hackathon, where I basically partnered with my team to pinpoint what's 3 or 4 of our biggest headaches currently, and worked with the team to set aside 4 hours on a Friday afternoon where we didn't have a lot of meetings and just work through those scenarios as a team. And it really built the team camaraderie and also solved problems a lot of what I found is just getting in there and playing around with it is the best way to start. There's not like a playbook, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. We have some questions. So I would say this is an easy one. Lindsay asks, are you rolling out Talon out to Condor users, or is it just an internal tool? We're going to be rolling out to users, but we've got more because this is going to be touching a lot of the data validation. We're very serious about using responsible AI and having controls around it. So it's still under testing and development, but we can do some beta stuff with you. So hit up Jeff after this. He asked, can you explain agents and how do you create one? I think, Jeff, you could probably take this because you built quite a few agents. And then Ravi asks, how can we leverage AI for quarter end validation for accrual accuracy? I would say for that one, probably an easy one to do is to load in your current workbook or your current accrual and load in your prior accrual, and then ask it to validate the differences and call them out for you. It can also ask if you have supporting documentation, if you're a reviewer and your team member gave you, here's my journal entry or here's my reconciliation, you can ask Claude to review it for you. Where the limitation is going to hit though is I wouldn't have Claude review judgmental estimates on the judgment, because that's where you need context. And even if you were to add in context, word of caution for everybody, if you add in context and you don't add in grounding elements, then what happens is you start having hallucinations and you have model drift. So you have to keep your context precise and grounded. So you have to engineer both at the same time, which is generally why people don't use generic AI for complicated stuff because of that grounding element. But Jeff, can you share just quickly, how do you create an agent?
Yeah, great question. So I think if we want to go all the way back to how to create an agent, it's first having a problem that you want to solve, right? Because all an agent is essentially a pre-designed workflow in an AI tool of your choice. Copilot has it, Claude has it, OpenAI, ChatGPT has it. But essentially, you're just creating workflows and teaching, almost like you would teach a new employee how to do something that you need solved. And you can create agents directly from chats and then essentially save the workflow. And then at that point, anytime you ever need that expertise or that particular task called upon again, you can go select that particular task and then feed it the new information. So for example, you could create an agent that basically puts together your board slides for you. And what you would start off by doing is maybe uploading your board slide template and uploading all of the source documents that go into those board slides, and then say, hey, I want to create an agent that helps me create and validate these board slides. The AI will assist and review all of the documents as well as the template, and then will allow you to save that workflow so that then the next time you can just upload the source documents and it will generate the actual slides for you at that point. That's a very basic example of what an agent can do. One thing I would caution against is a lot of agents, more agents seem better because they're automating more of your job, but you can think of them as employees. To Jen's point, it's not going to be perfect 100% of the time. You're going to have to review the work that your agents are putting out there. And it's okay, if you spin up 30 agents, that's 30 additional employees that you're having to manage, right? Depending on how many people you manage today, that might not sound as enticing. But yeah, that's a little spiel about agents.
Yeah, thanks. And Vinay, I would say if you're using Claude Cowork, you're not gonna be able to do it in chat. Use Claude Cowork and you're gonna want to use skills. And so look into that, but just quick highlights there. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to either Jeff and I, and we can go a step level deeper with you that's more specific on what you're trying to do. And then Anne says, how are you tying the AI pursuits to overreaching business goals and making sure that you're not implementing solutions that expose and scale organizational disconnect? That's a great point. And I think in order to go to work cross-functionally, number one, and have everybody use it, you need this top-down approach and change management. You need a couple things. You need your processes to be ready, you need your people to be ready, and you need your data to be available. If you don't have data that can be accessed and available, it's going to be really hard to use it. And so there's generally a lot of cleanup work that needs to be done. And that's up to the organization to figure out when is the right time for them to go across the whole value chain. Right now, what we do is we provide business context. So we have a lot of deep clinical operation context that you need to understand to help drive business decisions and outcomes. And we put that context in the hands of finance people today. Now, that context, though, can also be shared with the clinical operations team. And we're working with clinical operation partners on refining those models for their own use. But it really starts at the organization, the culture of the organization, and how they want to work together, which is no different than implementing any kind of enterprise-wide system where you need to have multiple users using it.
All right.
All right.
I know that we're at time here. Just want to thank everyone for their participation. If anybody's really interested in being one of the first users of some of Condor's AI capabilities, please reach out and also scan this QR code. We have a AI takeaways blog that will be helpful in just continuing educating you and giving you more tips and tricks and ideas for how you can leverage AI at your own organization. I want to thank everyone again for their time and looking forward to discussing AI continuously via webinars and other forums here at Condor. Thank you all again, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you guys. Thanks for your time. This is only the beginning. It's an exciting time. Bye.